What if the reason they don't believe in you is because you haven't given them anything to believe in yet? Not because you're incapable, not because you're not talented, but because, deep down, you've been playing small. And that thought stings a little, doesn't it? Because it's easier to say, they don't support me, they don't understand me, they doubt me. But what if, just for a second, you flipped that? What if their doubt isn't the problem? What if it's the signal? Think about it. Nobody questions something that's already proven. Nobody doubts something that's already undeniable. So if people think you'll fail, it means you're still in the phase where nothing about you looks certain yet. And yeah, that hurts, because it makes you feel invisible, underrated, ignored, dismissed, like you're trying so hard and nobody sees it. Be honest. Does that feel familiar? Because this is where most people quit, not because they can't do it, but because they hate how it feels to not be taken seriously. They want validation before results, support before proof, claps before consistency, and when they don't get it, they slow down, they hesitate, they start questioning themselves, and eventually, they stop. But here's where it gets real. The people you admire, the ones who made it, they didn't get belief first, they earned it later. After the silence, after the doubt, after being overlooked for way longer than they were comfortable with. And that's the part nobody shows you. Now here's something strange. Being doubted is actually a form of freedom. Yeah, I know that sounds backwards, but think about it. When nobody expects anything from you, you're free to build without pressure. No spotlight, no expectations, no one watching your every move. You get to fail quietly, improve quietly, grow without noise. But most people don't use that freedom. They waste it. Because instead of building, they spend their energy proving, talking about what they're going to do, explaining their plans, trying to convince people before they've convinced themselves. And that's where things break. Because confidence doesn't come from words. It comes from evidence, from showing up again and again, even when nobody's clapping, even when nobody cares. Now let me ask you something. Right now, are you building something real, or are you just thinking about it? Because there's a difference, a big one. One creates momentum, the other creates frustration. And frustration feels a lot like being stuck. But this is where things start to shift. Because the moment you stop needing people to believe in you, you become dangerous. Not loud, not flashy, dangerous. Because now, you're not performing for approval. You're working for results. And results don't argue. They don't explain. They don't defend themselves. They just show up. And suddenly, the same people who doubted you start asking questions. How did you do that? When did this happen? Why didn't you tell us? And you realize something. You didn't need them to believe. You needed them to doubt. Because their doubt forced you inward, made you rely on yourself, made you prove it, not talk about it. Now here's the part nobody tells you. There's a moment in this journey where it gets really quiet. No progress you can show, no wins you can share, just effort, day after day. And this is where most people disappear, because it feels like nothing is working, like you're putting in time and getting nothing back. And that's when the voice kicks in. Maybe they're right. Maybe I'm not cut out for this. Maybe I should just stop. So why does this keep happening? Why do we quit right before things start to change? We'll get there. But first, you need to understand one thing. Doubt from others is loud, but doubt from yourself, that's the real enemy. And if you don't learn how to handle that,
No amount of external belief will ever be enough. So here's where your story actually begins. Not when they doubted you, but when you started believing them.
And that's the turning point most people don't even notice. The moment you stop chasing your goal and start questioning your worth. It doesn't happen loudly. It's quiet, subtle. You still show up, but with less energy. You still try, but with less belief. And slowly, you begin to shrink. Not because you can't grow, but because you're trying to protect yourself from embarrassment, from failure, from proving them right. And here's the irony. The more you try to avoid failure, the more you guarantee it. Because you stop taking real risks. You stop pushing your limits. You stay in that safe zone where nothing breaks, but nothing builds either. Now wait till you hear this. Your comfort zone isn't comfortable. It just feels familiar. There's a difference. Comfort would mean peace. But what you feel right now? That restlessness, that quiet frustration, that feeling like you're capable of more. That's not comfort. That's potential being ignored. And it builds pressure, day by day, until one of two things happens. You either break through or you break down. So let's talk about the breakthrough, because this is where everything changes. It starts with a decision, not a big one, not dramatic, just a quiet shift. You stop asking, what if I fail? And you start asking, what if I don't even try? Because when you really think about it, which one hurts more? Failing once, or living with the idea that you never gave it everything you had? Be honest, because most people don't fail their dreams, they abandon them. And then they carry that weight for years. That what-if feeling. It doesn't go away, it just gets quieter, but it's always there. Now here's the part that hits hard. Nobody is coming to save you from that. No perfect opportunity, no sudden motivation, no moment where everything finally feels right. You move or you stay stuck. That's it. So what does moving actually look like? It's not flashy. It's not motivational. It's boring, repetitive, sometimes even frustrating. It looks like showing up when you don't feel like it, working when no one is watching, fixing mistakes nobody sees, improving quietly. And that's why it works, because most people won't do it. They want fast results, quick validation, something they can show immediately. But real growth, it hides for a long time, until one day, it doesn't. And that's when everything flips. But you don't get there without staying through the invisible phase. So let me ask you something again. Which one are you right now? A, waiting for the perfect moment. B, building even when it's messy. Don't overthink it, because your answer is your direction. Now here's something I learned the hard way. You don't need confidence to start. You build confidence by starting. Every time you do something difficult and survive it, your brain updates. It realizes, okay, maybe we can handle more than we thought. And that's how you grow. Not in giant leaps, but in small proofs, over and over again, until doubt doesn't disappear, but it stops controlling you. And that's power. Because now, you can feel uncertain and still move forward. You can feel fear and still take action. And once you reach that point, you become unstoppable. Not because you're fearless, but because fear doesn't stop you anymore. Now here's where it gets real again. People will still doubt you, even when you improve, even when you start making progress. Why? Because they're used to the old version of you, the one who hesitated, the one who talked more than they acted. And it takes time for people to update their perception. But here's the truth. You're not doing this for them. You're doing this for you, for the version of you that's tired of feeling stuck, that's tired of second-guessing everything, that wants control, clarity,
direction. And that version, it's not built overnight. It's built in moments like this, when you decide to keep going, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's uncertain, even when nobody believes in you, because eventually they will. But by then, it won't even matter anymore.
But here's where things get uncomfortable, because at some point, it stops being about them, their doubt, their opinions, their expectations. It all fades. And what you're left with is you, your habits, your discipline, your consistency, or the lack of it. Because once you remove the noise, you can't hide anymore. And that's where most people get stuck again. Not because they don't know what to do, but because doing it requires becoming someone different, more focused, more patient, more accountable. And that version of you, it's not built in comfort. It's built in repetition, the kind that feels boring, predictable, almost invisible. And your brain hates that. It wants excitement, quick wins, something to feel proud of right now. But real change, it delays that feeling. It makes you work before you feel anything. And that's where the resistance kicks in. Skip today. You've done enough. You'll start again tomorrow. Sounds harmless, but stack enough of those days and suddenly you're right back where you started. Now think about this for a second. How many times have you said, "I'll start tomorrow," and actually meant it? But tomorrow came and nothing changed. Why? Because intention doesn't create action. Standards do. This next part changes everything. You don't rise to your goals. You fall to your standards. Let that sit. Because goals are what you want. Standards are what you accept. And if your standards are low, your results will match every time. So instead of asking, "How do I succeed?" start asking, "What do I no longer tolerate from myself?" Skipping work, making excuses, quitting when it gets hard. Because the moment you raise your standards, your actions have no choice but to follow. And this is where your identity starts shifting. You stop seeing yourself as someone who tries and start seeing yourself as someone who does, no matter what. Now here's a truth most people avoid. Consistency is not about motivation. It's about identity. If you see yourself as someone who quits easily, you will. If you see yourself as someone who follows through, you'll find a way. Even on the hard days, even when everything feels off. And those are the days that matter most. Because anyone can show up when it's easy. But who are you when it's not? That's the real question. Be honest. When things get uncomfortable, do you push forward or pull back? Because that pattern is shaping your entire life, right now, not later. Now here's where things start to click. The goal was never to prove them wrong. That's just the surface. The real goal? To prove yourself right. To become someone you can trust. Someone who says, "I'm going to do this," and actually does it. Because once you build that trust, everything changes. You stop needing validation. You stop overthinking every step. You stop doubting every decision. And you start moving with quiet confidence, not loud, not performative, just steady, relentless. And that's what makes it powerful. Because it's not based on emotion. It's based on proof. Now here's the part that flips everything again. Winning doesn't happen in public. It's built in private.
in the moments nobody sees. When you choose to work instead of scroll, to focus instead of distract yourself, to keep going instead of quitting. And over time, those small decisions compound. They stack. They build momentum. Until one day, you look back and realize you're not the same person anymore. Stronger, sharper, more disciplined. And suddenly, the doubt that once felt heavy feels irrelevant. Because now, you've seen what you're capable of. And that changes everything. But there's still one final shift. One mindset that takes all of this and locks it in permanently. Because without it, people fall back. They relapse into old habits, old thinking, old versions of themselves. So if you've made it this far, this next part is the one you don't ignore.
And here it is. The final shift. The one that turns effort into identity. You stop trying to prove something, and you start becoming something. Because as long as your motivation is external, proving them wrong, showing people what you can do, making them regret doubting you, you'll burn out. Why? Because external fuel runs out. It fades. It depends on emotion, and emotions change. But identity? That's different. Identity stays. So instead of waking up thinking, I have to prove them wrong today, you wake up thinking, this is just who I am now. I'm someone who shows up. I'm someone who doesn't quit halfway. I'm someone who finishes what I start. And when that becomes real, you don't need motivation anymore. You don't negotiate with yourself. You don't debate whether you feel like it. You just move. Because it's not a choice. It's a standard. Now let me ask you something. Who are you when nobody's watching? Not when you're inspired, not when you're motivated, not when everything feels aligned, but on the random, ordinary days when nothing feels special and everything feels heavy. That version of you? That's the one building your future. Not the hype version, not the excited version, the consistent one. And this is where most people slip. They think transformation happens in big moments. It doesn't. It happens in quiet decisions, over and over again. Now here's something you need to hear. You don't need revenge. You don't need validation. You don't even need recognition. What you need is alignment. Your actions matching your standards, your habits matching your goals, your identity matching your potential. Because when those align, success becomes inevitable. Not instant, but inevitable. And that's a different kind of confidence. The quiet kind. The kind that doesn't need to announce itself. The kind that doesn't care who's watching, because it knows it's only a matter of time. Now think about your life right now. All the doubt you've felt, all the hesitation, all the moments you almost gave up. What if none of that was wasted? What if it was all preparing you for this version of yourself? The one who finally decides, no more excuses, no more waiting, no more half effort, just commitment. Because here's the truth. You don't become unstoppable overnight. You become unstoppable the moment you stop stopping. Read that again, because that's it. That's the difference. Not talent, not luck, not perfect timing. Just the decision to keep going, no matter what. And yeah, there will still be hard days. Days where doubt creeps back in. Days where things don't go your way. Days where quitting feels easier. That doesn't disappear, but now it doesn't control you. Because you've built something stronger. Discipline. And discipline doesn't care how you feel.
It just executes. And over time, that discipline becomes your edge, the thing that separates you from everyone who started but didn't stay. Now here's the final question. When this video ends, who are you going to be? The one who felt motivated for a moment and then went back to old habits? Or the one who actually changes something, even something small? Because that's how this starts. Not with a massive decision, just one shift, one action, one moment where you choose differently. And that moment? It's available right now. So don't overthink it. Don't wait for the perfect time. Don't tell yourself you'll start later. Later is the lie that keeps people stuck. Now is where everything begins. So take that step. Stay consistent. And become the version of yourself that doesn't need to prove anything anymore. Because the results will do it for you. If this hits something real for you, don't ignore it. Stay with it. Build on it. And if you want to keep growing into that version, the one who doesn't quit in the middle, stay here, subscribe, and start proving it to yourself.